Good evening, everybody, and welcome to your Friday edition of the This Is Ibrox podcast. We are live across Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, which is where to send us any comments or questions that you may have. We're going to be having a look at that sensational Champions League draw and also looking forward to tomorrow's home game against Ross County. I've got Dylan joining me tonight. How are you, Dylan? It's been quite a week, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely quite excited. As Alan McGregor says, happy days.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the best way to put it. I've also got Scott with me. How are you, Scott? Still thinking about that victory on, when was it, Wednesday night?
I don't think I've quite processed it yet, so I am still there. I'm still in Eindhoven in my head, so absolutely brilliant night.
Good stuff. We're also delighted to be joined tonight by Ramsey Banks from the Staggies View podcast. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Ramsey. How are you? Are you heading to the game tomorrow? Oh,
I'm not. Yeah.
no worries.
I'm working, but I've never actually been to Ibrox, so.
Sure, no, you're fine. I think your audio might have cut out slightly there, but that's yeah. Well, hopefully you'll
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Oh, I think we might be having some tech issues, Ramsey. I think there's maybe a wee bit of a delay, but it's okay. We'll move on just now, and hopefully your audio will pick up. Lads, there's only really one place to start when it comes to Rangers this week, and that is with the Champions League group stage draw. Rangers have been drawn into Group A, where they will face off against Dutch champions Ajax, Serie A side Napoli, and of course Liverpool as well. Luciano Spalletti, the Napoli manager, and Jurgen Klopp have both been alluding to the sort of great history that all four of these clubs have. It's a really sort of authentic, in inverted commas, Champions League group. Dylan, what's your immediate reaction to the draw in terms of the teams that we're going to be facing?
Aye, a very tough group. Probably argue that's probably arguably the hardest group in the Champions League. You've got not only top quality sides, but sides with history in the competition. You've got Ajax again, giants, Dutch football, Liverpool. One of the two English teams are just ripping it up at the moment. And you've got Napoli, who finished third last season in Serie A, which obviously Serie A is not what it used to be, but they're still a pretty good competition, and it'd be quite good to see us play in Naples. But yeah, I mean, it's a very difficult group. There's no doubt about that. But as I was saying kind of before we went on air there, there's not really any easy games in the Champions League. It is, the best of the best. But honestly, I'm quite happy, and also I'm quite looking forward to the Battle of Britain as it is against Liverpool. So yeah, I'm quite happy, and it will be a few good away days for us fans.
Yeah, definitely. Scott, what about you? Was there a particular standout tie amongst the three that you're looking forward to, or were you really just glad to be back in the draw?
Just happy to be here. Genuinely, we're not here to make up the numbers, but I think a lot of us, especially pre-second leg against PSV, a lot of people were thinking, this isn't it for us. We're going to have another season in the Europa, which would have been great because we know we can compete at that level. Just being here, though, I think is a massive, massive achievement for us. Really looking forward to the tie against Napoli. I was looking over the squads, just trying to understand what would be kind of going up against. I know they've lost a few players like Lorenzo Insigne, but they've still got players like Victor Msinhen, Giacomo Raspadori, and now they've got Giovanni Simeone on loan as well. They're going to be a tough team. I don't think there's any pushovers, just like Dylan was saying. Every game in this group's going to be difficult. Really looking forward to seeing Calvin Bassey back at Ibrox, though. Didn't think it would happen this quickly. But no, I think it's going to be an absolutely brilliant occasion for us. And anything like third place is going to be amazing for us if we can manage to get anywhere near it.
Yeah, no, it is. It's fantastic to be back. Ramsey, listen, I know you're here to talk about Ross County, but just from an outside point of view, what do you perhaps make of Rangers' chances there as a neutral?
First of all, do I sound all right?
I think there's maybe a little bit of a delay with your audio, Ramsey. I apologise for any of the listeners. There's a few technical issues there. I don't know, Ramsey, if you want to... I don't know what the best thing to sort of do about that is. It's probably best maybe to sign off and sign back on again. I'm not 110%.
I think it works better on mobile. Hold on.
No problem. Right, we'll try and get Ramsey back in a couple of minutes, folks. Dylan, we'll keep chatting about the Champions League draw. What's a reasonable expectation in that group? Because we were talking sort of before, and Rangers ultimately, with the greatest of respect, have punched above their weight in reaching that Europa League final. But we have at the same time become accustomed to beating these really high quality teams. So what are your expectations in that group? Realistic expectations.
Yeah. I think it's quite a hard one to answer that because I don't know. I really do hope for like a third place finish because I think we've got kind of like that Ibrox factor as well at home. I think we can generally get a result do at home. I do believe that. Maybe it's just me being really optimistic, but we did beat really good sides last year in Europe. Borussia Dortmund, RB Leipzig. The list goes on. So we have sort of like be that certain level team. Obviously, this is a level up from those teams we played, but I think it'd be quite a hard one. I don't, in all honesty, I know it sounds very unstunted to me, but I don't expect us to go through to the knockout phases of the Champions League. I think that might just be a step too far. Not to say that I think we won't reach that perhaps in the next few seasons if we keep qualifying for Champions League, but I think I would be really happy we finish third place because I think it'll be a good experience for the team for what to expect at that level. And it also gives us a chance to compete again in Europa League. And I don't know. I just fancy us to go all the way. And honestly, I don't see why we shouldn't believe that as a fan base. So to answer your question, I hope that we can get a third place finish, but again, it'll be very tough.
Yeah, we've had a morning from Los Angeles come in the comments, which is always fantastic to see. Good morning to you. Scott, coming to you with a kind of similar question. Dylan mentioned there that he expects us to, well, not necessarily expects, but you would hope, a third place finish, I think you probably would be content with, given Liverpool and Ajax and indeed Napoli were all in the pots above Rangers. What are your expectations? Do you think third place, do you think fans would be content with that?
100%. So I think just being here in itself is the achievement. I think we've now met the target that we probably set ourselves pre-season. But third has to be the aim right now. Anything else is a bonus. Finishing fourth, I don't think will be the worst thing in the world for us, but absolutely. Hopefully we can finish third. Let's face it, and let's be honest here. We were the team in that pot, in pot 4, that none of the other groups wanted. They were all saying not Rangers, not Rangers, not Rangers. Luckily, we didn't end up doing a Victoria Pilsen and getting in the group of death, but I mean, our group is not far off it. So no, I think aim for third. Anything else is a bonus. If we don't finish third, I don't think you can be too critical of the team and what they've done just to get here, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact. I think there was a point where Rangers could have been drawn into Group C. I can't remember if Pleasant were drawn beforehand. I'm really not sure, but I was quite on edge when I seen Barcelona, Bayern Munich, and Inter Milan all in the same group with each other. But hey, we're not there. That's probably the main thing. There's glamour ties, and then there's just sort of overdose, I think. So, Ramsey, coming to you. Hopefully your audio's back with us. We're going to turn to the game tomorrow against Ross County. Incidentally, it's a team that Rangers haven't lost a professional fixture to. But Ramsey, how's things at Ross County at the minute? What's the kind of mood at this point of the season? That you must have been quite pleased to get the first win last week?
Yeah, so the mood's quite good. At the start of the season, we were all really confident. We had a good transfer window, and I think we lost our first 3. 2 were against Hearts and Celtic, but then we got beat by St Mirren. I think the new signings did need to blood in together a bit. And last week we won it by the skin of our teeth. We due to SFA retrospective bans, now they think we should have been down to 9 men because of 2 horror tackles. So we did get a bit lucky. But I think the forward players are starting to gel together really well. There's a good core of the team from last year. Your Calicans, your Iacovitti, your Baldwins, our centre backs. So it's not as if it's like a whole new team. But as you said, you've never lost competitive fixture to us. And even though Jordan White does his best to score against us every time he plays you, I'm not sure anything different's going to happen. But you never know.
Yeah, I'm going to just stick with you for a minute, Ramsey. I mean, I know that we said Ross County haven't recorded a victory, but it is a high scoring fixture. I mean, looking at last year, Rangers recorded 4-2 wins in both Dingwall and at Ibrox, and then a 4-1 win after the split. But of course, the big one, I think probably quite damaging in retrospect to Rangers' chances at a league title last season, was that 3-3 draw away from home when White grabbed the last minute equaliser. So Ramsey, are you taking any confidence from that? Maybe the fact that there is definitely goals to be had there. I know things change and Regan Charles-Cook isn't there, but is there any confidence being taken from that?
Yeah, for sure. The thing I have about that is that I don't know where the goals are going to come from. Like we're definitely not bad in front of goal. It's just not far enough into the season to know where exactly that's going to happen. We're definitely going to miss Charles Cook's goals, but the kind of role he played, I think another good winger that we've now got in a Wura Edwards on loan from Bristol could do the same. It just is a bit early. I think definitely those high scoring fixtures could still happen, especially now debatably our best centre back is out for 2 matches. But
right, yeah, Dylan, coming on to you there. What are you expecting from Rangers tomorrow? Because as I mentioned there, yes, okay, we can keep going on about not one. They never lost to Ross County, but they have proved tough in the past. What are you kind of expecting going in tomorrow, especially given it was such a tough away trip to Holland on Wednesday night?
I think it's more the same, to be honest. I don't really expect things to change too radically. I think, honestly, I would would like us to see press more, be a bit more, be more aggressive in our attacking. Because I think last week at Hibs, it was quite frustrating, especially the first half, when we see Lawrence and Kent in good positions, and he just didn't build a trigger, and that's quite frustrating as a spectator. So I can never mind how frustrating that is for the team. But I would just like to see us a bit more aggressive in our attacking. I know that's been a criticism. I know we all come as a team lineups, but I don't expect us to change too much, if I'm to be honest. But I can just try to get comfortable and. And these are the type of games that we should be winning, in all honesty. So, that's kind of what I'm expecting.
Yeah. Scott, Dylan kind of mentioned it there, thinking about back to Hibs last week, and then Livingston was the previous away fixture in the league. We know that Rangers do seem to have a little bit of a problem away from home in terms of getting going, but, their home fixtures so far this season, Killy took a little while to get going, but they did record a 2-0 win, and Kilmarnock didn't really threaten, and then 4-0 against St Johnstone. So hopefully at home, Rangers can just make things relatively straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope so. We have found it difficult, especially this season, though, just to get ourselves started. County will probably come at us for the first whistle. I'd imagine Malky Mackay seems to have the team quite well drilled. So we're going to find them having 10 men behind the ball, but as Ramsey's saying is, we're going to have Jordan White as their focal point up front. He causes a thorn in our side, and I think judging by our domestic form, we've really struggled managing the opposition strikers. And if that's going to be the same again tomorrow, we're really going to have a difficult day, I'd imagine. I'm a bit nervous about this game, and I really can't place why, but it might potentially be to do with the post-Europe slump, which a lot of teams seem to be experiencing. Just ask Dundee United if you're not sure exactly what that is. I just think we really need to be on top tomorrow. I get the players will be on a high, they'll be euphoric after the PSV result, after Champions League qualification, but it needs to be sleeve rolled up, back down to the nitty-gritty, because County are not going to come here and roll over for us to kind of take a few off them. That's not going to happen. They're going to make it difficult, make it stuffy. They're going to try and get the crowd on our back. I think it will be a difficult game.
Yeah. Ramsey, I'll come back to you. Could you maybe talk me through a little bit about how Ross County have been setting up under Malky Mackay, and if there's any particular areas of your squad where you think could pose a real threat to Rangers tomorrow?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, I just want to say that Jordan White hasn't started a game yet in the league this season. Jordi Hula has been starting up front. I think we're more likely to see White off the bench. So I'll answer your question in 2 parts. So we usually play like a 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. But against Celtic this season, the other team that's likely to give us the most problems, we played more of like a 4-2-2, like a narrow 4-4-2, like a diamond-ish, with 4 natural centre mids, with 1 like marking each. Well, Celtic are a bit different because they played, the inverted wing backs. It was narrow to stop them from making runs through the channels. So it'd be a little different, but I expect us to do something similar tomorrow.
Yeah, nice. Lads, turning to the Rangers lineups, firstly, we'll go through some quick squad updates from the press conference. Van Bronckhorst said Alex Lowry will be out for some weeks. Admittedly, he's not been in the first team squad, but it's still a shame that quite a horror challenge that he suffered, and it looks like it's going to keep him out for quite some time. He said that Kamara had some problems with his knee and won't be in tomorrow's squad. And he also added that Morelos wouldn't be either, and that he would be sitting down with him next week to talk through whatever's going through Alfredo Morelos' head, which is probably going to be quite a long chat. Dylan, starting from the back in terms of Rangers lineup tomorrow, Goldson and Tavernier are always going to start. Who's making up that left side of the defence for you?
Yeah, so as I said, I don't expect too much wholesale changes. So probably with the left centre back, I expect Sands to still be there. I know quite a lot of people would want Ben Davies to start the game, but I think he's more likely to start against Queen and South, personally. But I think the James I want to see at left back is Yilmaz. I don't really think we've seen too much of him. And yeah, these sort of really debut games, I think, can help him settle into the team. Not only for himself, but for other players on the park to sort of know like how he plays. Because I think listening back to other podcasts, I think they mentioned how Yilmaz in his first start, he was like 20 yards further than what Barisic would be. So I think he's just trying to get used to the system, and then like the first strike, get used to like how he plays. So I quite like to see him, and not to say that I think Barisic should be dropped. I think he's actually been pretty solid for us in the past couple of weeks, especially on Wednesday night. But I quite like to see Yilmaz get to run it.
Yeah, I have of course just been reminded as well that Morelos would have been suspended regardless of whatever has been going on away from the pitch. Scott, turning to you, obviously tomorrow, do you think tomorrow's lineup will be influenced by the fact that yes, there otherwise maybe could be rotation in there, but because we have Queen of the South midweek, players that would maybe have come in are probably going to get a chance on Tuesday anyway?
100%. I don't see us doing much in the way of rotation, especially defensively. When we look at it, I'd expect to see much the same lineup that we saw against PSV, obviously with Kamara dropping out, as Gio said. So yeah, no, I think we're going to have one eye in Queen of the South. I agree with Dylan. I think that's where you're probably going to see Davies. I think you'll probably see Yilmaz in the Queen of the South game as well. I don't think there's any point in throwing them in. At the end of the day, this group of players needs to start getting used to the Sunday, Tuesday, Sunday, or Wednesday, Saturday schedule, because we've got this condensed European campaign coming up because of the World Cup. It's going to be a really hectic September, October for us. So we just need to get used to playing those 2 games a week consistently throughout it. So no, for me, I expect same back line, Tav, Goldson, James Sands, and then Borna Barisic. I've not been Borna's biggest fan this season, but I have to hold my hands up and say it's done well enough. Still defensively a little bit shaky, but I think that's what you expect when Borna Barisic is playing. But let's just put a word out there for James Sands, who I think has been brilliant at the back for us this season. I was very critical of him, along with a lot of people when he first came in. Didn't think he was imposing enough to play the midfield, and he wasn't big enough to play at the back, but he's proved me wrong. Some of the criticism he's come in for online has been outrageous. He's probably been our best defender this season, in my opinion, and I think he needs to get praised more often.
Yeah, no, he has. I mean, he was absolutely outstanding against PSV, as was the whole team, but Sands in particular these past few weeks really has gone up a level. Ramsey, I wonder if you could maybe, again, sort of give us an insight into Ross County. Is there a particular area of your squad that worries you slightly in terms of where Rangers might go for?
I'm not sure Rangers in specific could go for it, but we don't really have that much of a settled midfield yet, especially now that Ross Callaghan's suspended. I'm really interested to see who's going to go in there. So David Kankola started last week, one of our midfielders. But before that, it's been anyone's guess who's starting. There's been Ben Payton, our Canadian midfielder, pretty young, Jordan Tilson for a little more experience. So it's not so much that it's weak, it's just that it's very unsettled. And I think Rangers could take advantage of a little bit of uncertainty there.
Yeah. Ramsey, I'm just going to stick with you because I'm quite intrigued by this. Obviously, Ross County, after quite a difficult start last season, ended up having a cracking end and finishing in the top 6. But what are the expectations like this season? Obviously, with Charles Cook, such a big player going, are you expecting to get top 6 again, or is it a case of wanting to avoid relegation somewhere in between?
Well, for County, obviously, you can never be too sure. But the main focus is usually to avoid relegation. But this season, honestly, we seem on paper to have such a strong squad. Well, usually after getting top 6 and missing out on Europe, like by this much, you usually say, "Oh, we want to get Europe this time." But obviously, other teams are strengthened as well. I think everyone that I've spoken to who's a County fan says, "Oh, a successful season is probably going to be fighting for the top 6."
Right. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense. I suppose after what happened last season, Dylan. Coming back to Rangers tomorrow, we've had a few comments come in. A lot of people suggesting that we should go full strength. So with that in mind, and knowing that Kamara is out, who is your midfield tomorrow?
Yeah. So midfield for personally, just probably similar to Wednesday night. Have like Lundstrom in there, but I would probably play Stephen Davies there. I think in these type of games, as we kind of alluded, it can be quite stuffy, and I think Davies kind of has that quality where he can sort of like find space, or he can just like make that one pass that sort of splits open the defence. I quite like to see him. Again, I don't really expect him to start games, at Barkhead or against, the likes of Aberdeen, Hibs or Hearts, but I think in these types of games, he will prove his worth, I think. And I think, in terms of like kind of like attacking forward, kind of like playing behind the striker, I think possibly either Tillman or Lawrence in a kind of like more attacking midfielder role. I was quite impressed with Lawrence actually the other night. I thought he played some good passes, he got in some good space, and he was quite unlucky not to score that goal. I think if he did score that goal, then that would be an early contender for goal of the season. But he has that ability as well to sort of like back out a shot or like make that space for like other players to get a shot off. So that's kind of like what I'd like from midfield personally for tomorrow.
Yeah, no, he was incredibly unlucky with that shot. The minute it left his boot, I think most of us probably thought that it was in. Scott, just wanted to pick up on a comment that came in there that suggested we maybe start Fashion Sakala with Cholak tomorrow. Just wondering what your thoughts are on that, or if you would go with another attacking lineup.
I saw the comment myself and had a wee chuckle at it. Fashion Sakala, I don't think there's anyone at Ibrox that doesn't love Fashion Sakala as a person. As a player, there are still major question marks over him. County are going to be sat, I'd imagine, very deep to try and stop our players getting in behind them. Fashion Sakala is going to have no space to run into. So unless we want Fashion Sakala running into the Copeland and working in the pie stall, I don't think you're going to see Fashion Sakala tomorrow whatsoever, unless it's very stuffy late on and we're looking to chase a goal and put pressure on County. Wouldn't expect to see Fashion Sakala in this team at all. Sorry about that.
No, fair enough. You've you've answered that question. Dylan, I just want to come back to you a minute. I think obviously, it's likely that Cholak is going to start, but it's nice now to. It feels like before when Morelos was out, regardless whether he was at fault or not, whether it was injury or because he was suspended previously, Rangers did have a problem where they weren't really sure where that kind of focal point of the attack was going to come from. But the way that Cholak has been playing, the way that Arfield was speaking about him in the press conference earlier, just talking about the hard yards that he puts in, things that the players see that we perhaps don't. He really has, these last few weeks, stepped up, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, massively. I think I was on a podcast with you for the Kilmarnock game when he got his first week goal. I kind of said how I thought at that point that'd be a mass for him because he did score like a crucial goal. I think he scored like the first goal in the game, if I mean right. And and then like from then on he scored like 3 goals in the Champions League so far. At least in qualifying. Big massive goals. He does do like the hard yards. I don't think he's like a like for like replacement for Morelos, but I think what he does is he can sort of find that space in the penalty box. He knows the right position, and I generally think that if he can get a chance of shot, it could be a chance of goal. Because I never really thought Morelos is the cleanest. Has the cleanest strike of the ball personally. I think Cholak is more of a natural striker compared to Morelos, but just to allude to the comments from Reese a few weeks ago, he's not exactly bad for being dug meat in this, so yeah.
He's certainly improved. Ramsey, I'm just wondering, from a Ross County perspective, obviously, this Rangers attack is still gelling together, but they have looked quite sharp. Who do you sort of think is probably going to pose the most danger to Ross County in terms of who do you look at the Rangers lineup and sort of think, well, I really wish they weren't starting out of this current squad?
I think Tillman by a country mile. I can't claim to have watched Rangers that much this season, but just he seems to have absolutely hit the ground running. I'm not sure if you have any like major criticisms of him, but he looks like, obviously he's coming from Bayern Munich. He's always going to be amazing, but he looks by an absolute country mile. And Colac not that far behind this. I think signings like that. Last season I looked at Rangers and I know you got to a final, but at times in the league I thought you looked a little bit stale. And I think with those additions, you look a lot better.
Yeah, no, I would certainly agree with that, Scott. I don't know if you would as well, but just picking up onto Tillman there. I mean, I think I struggled to pick a man of the match on Wednesday night, just by virtue of the fact of how well everybody had played. But I think if I was asked, I probably would have gone for Tillman. I mean, these last couple of weeks really have shown, it's still early days, but it is looking like that recruitment there of Lawrence, Cholak and Tillman was spot on.
100%. I think Malik Tillman's been nothing short of a revelation. When we secured the Champions League money, I'm sure a lot of people's first thought was, when do we sign Tillman? When is that going to be made permanent? If you were to ask BBC Scotland, though, apparently Malik Tillman was anonymous against PSV, which I just think is absolutely ludicrous. Malik Tillman is the sort of player who really can progress the game for us. He takes the ball in tight positions. He's an absolute unit of a player. Very good in the air, as we know now from 2 occasions where he scored headed goals. I think he could potentially be quite key if he starts against County. But absolutely, Ramsey, you've picked out an absolute gem of a player there. Tillman is, in my opinion, he's going to be one of the best players in the future for us if we manage to sign him, obviously. And he's going to have a great career in front of him, I'd imagine. Definitely World Cup material. Hope to see him and Sands rocking out for the USA and Qatar.
Yeah, I suppose they could be. I know that Sands has made appearances for the US national team. I'm not sure if Tillman has. I'm not 100% sure. I'd imagine maybe at youth level he has. Ramsey, I just wanted to come back to you as well to ask kind of one last question on Ross County. I'm assuming that, in terms of Malcolm Mackay's job, etc., he's pretty safe. Are the fans quite content with the job that he's doing, especially after last season? Because I know that, funnily enough, my flatmate was a Ross County fan. I remember when he came in, he was quite edgy, and obviously after the start, but is he looking pretty solid in the job now?
I think at the start, everyone was just raging because of his past. And I was fuming. But as time's gone on, everyone's just kind of become either like apathetic or like genuinely likes him, because to be fair, he does come across well in interviews, and he's also, obviously, the stuff he's doing to the team on the pitch is undeniable. So I wouldn't see, even if we went on a really bad run, I can't imagine, and the club have backed him so much in his transfer strategy. I think if he was to be sacked, then it would just be a massive waste of trust, basically.
Yeah. On that note, are you quite happy with your current squad the way it is? You talked quite fondly about them. I know you said it's maybe a little bit unsettled, but in general, do you feel that you've got who you need, or is there certain areas you still think really could do with a bit of improvement?
Well, we've got 3 natural centre backs, which is always a bit of a risk. But 2 of the full backs we've signed can also play centre back. Apart from that, I think we're fine. I think any more signings would lead to a bit more of unsettlement, because players need playing time.
Yeah. Well, fair enough, Dylan. I'm going to come to you first for your prediction for tomorrow. What are you going for?
Yeah. So again, I think it'll be a quite stuffy game. Might be frustrating at points, but I'm going to go for a 2-0 win. I think we will, dominate. But yeah, I'm going to go for 2-0 win, and yeah, be happy with that.
Yeah. Ramsey, what about yourself?
1-0 win for County when we spend 89 minutes camped on the edge of our box and get a last minute winner off of one of our defenders' backsides off a corner or something.
Fantastic. I have to say, Ramsey, I like that, because I think, lads, when we've had the Kilmarnock podcast on and the St Johnstone podcast, none of them were too optimistic. So whether that comes to fruition or not tomorrow, Ramsey, I'm afraid that imagine most of our viewers will hope that it doesn't. But I like your optimism. Scott, what about you?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Dylan. Don't agree with Ramsey. I'm going to have to put that one out there, mate. I hope your prediction comes to absolutely nothing. So no, I think probably 2-1 Rangers or 1-0 Rangers, probably the most likely outcome. The only thing that's a certainty is that Tony Cholak is going to score.
Yes, well, the way he's playing, it's certainly likely. Ramsey, listen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a real pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, not at all. Dylan, Scott, thank you as always. Cheers, guys.
Take care.
Thank you. The guys will be back on Sunday dissecting the game tomorrow, and that will be across YouTube, Facebook and Twitter again. Please remember to like and subscribe, and we will see everyone on Sunday. Enjoy your evening, folks.